We are ready, my lord.
I am so glad that I will never have to touch this game again. The Last Remnant is supposed to be Square Enix's attempt at marketing an RPG that the entire world can enjoy. The developers in interviews have stated that it's supposed to break away from the traditions that many Japanese RPGs convey, while still coveting a unique flavor. Yeah, I consider that more or less completely meaningless. All it really amounts to is that it's another Square game that utilizes concepts that make MMORPGs a complete pain in the ass. Yeah, such negativity, I know. But I really don't consider this game to be horrible by any real stretch. The game actually does take a few stabs at innovation. The developing team, theoretically headed by a fresh group of young people, have some good ideas. It's just this, for every well-executed idea, there's another element that knocks it straight right back. The art in Last Remnant is great. It's distinctly Japanese, but not cliched. A lot of work went into the architecture, and it looks fantastic. However, there's an atrocious amount of texture pop-in that looks downright spooky until your eyes get used to just not paying such close attention. The towns also feel very disjointed, and you utilize a menu to move around between different areas within the same town. With eventually 18 characters being usable at once, you split them into unions. Unions can have up to 5 characters each with a limited amount of leaders available, which are basically your more useful guys. This is cool and a really nice new take on typical RPG fighting systems. When you go into battle, you take on other enemy unions. Typical battles consist of anywhere between 1 and 3 unions you must fight against, while later on, you find yourself in the middle of massive wars consisting of more than 30 different unions with wicked fire-breathing dragons and crazy bosses also thrown into the mix. At its best, Last Remnant is really spectacular. After the first 5 hours, the difficulty level is rather well balanced. When people go to great RPGs, they tend to forget about the downtimes, the incessant grinding and dull ass times where you fight the same batch of 2 enemies for several hours as you make your way through a linear path. Last Remnant is not devoid of sections like this. Here is what really pissed me off though. The first 5 hours of this game, a monkey could play. Not a single iota of strategy was necessary. Select the attack button, watch the drawn out fighting animations, and move on. 5 freaking hours of this crap. I don't see how anyone could argue that this is not a negative trait. While the battle animations are pretty cool, they truly aren't that goddamn cool. The game does pick up as mentioned, but the beginning was very annoying. The nitty-gritty execution of the battle system is a bit controversial, and I'm still a little unsure how I truly feel about it. You cannot micro your characters. You do not have complete control. For each union, you typically are given 5 various choices. I'm sure there's a ton of math going on behind the scenes, but you aren't made aware of any of it. Your available commands are pretty much random. Fight, fight with magic, fight with combat skills, fight with other combat skills, attack from afar, use a finishing move, stay put, heal with magic, heal with items, and so on. About 5 of these will randomly show up, and while you can pretty much count on something good to allow you to attack, relying on the others is a toss-up. While I can see I have magic points available to use a healing spell, why is the only choice to use a healing item available? Why can't I attack from afar for this particular enemy? Why can I not heal an ally when I have both healing spells and healing items available and they're chilling over there at half health? Why can't I use the bloody finishing moves ever? Okay, there's a logic behind this, I understand that. It's a game about playing the odds. You construct your unions based on their likelihoods in order to produce a balance. Once you really get to know your characters, you can pretty much predict what skills will be available. I suppose I kind of like the system because at least it was different. There's a lot of predicting of theoretical math that will probably either make or break this game for a lot of people. And regardless of that, some of the showdowns between bosses, as mentioned, are pretty great. So why did I not end up liking this game that much? Simple. Long stretches of this game are boring as hell. Last Remnant is extremely repetitive, with many fights against small fry that play out the exact same way each and every time. Even when the monsters do require strategy, it's the same exact strategy over and over, and it really isn't that hard choosing it from a series of menus time and time again. The MMO qualities basically mean that there's a lot of shit to collect. There are hundreds of trinkets available to win after defeating enemies, which you can later fuse together in town to produce something that may, but most likely won't be useful. You can hunt down rare monsters for the rare materials that they have, but even that boils down to just more grinding. There are a few extra areas to check out at the end of the game, and a bunch of extra quests, but they really don't offer much in the way of fresh and unique content. Completionists who like to do things just because they are there will get a kick out of it, but otherwise they offer little to appease the common player. The story itself is a little mediocre. The only reason why I somewhat liked some of the characters was because of the art design, and I guess I appreciated the fact that no one ever started crying in angst, and there was no lame backstab plot twist that you could see coming a mile away. I appreciated the simplicity of the story, but it still wasn't that thrilling. Basically, there are these things called remnants scattered across the land that give humans unique powers, which can be very destructive. These artifacts have been the cause of many wars throughout history, and the main character, Rush Sykes, happens to be in the middle of one of them. He bears a unique tie to these remnants along with his sisters, and he allies with the kingdom in order to battle against those without particularly humane intentions. The concept is interesting, kind of, but the execution leaves just a little to be desired. Last Remnant was just barely good enough to keep me interested, and I did kind of have to force myself along on a few occasions. I'll probably at least consider checking out any sequels just to see where they might end up taking the storyline in the future. However, I'm really happy that I won't ever have to play this one again. There is no one major thing that made this game crappy. It's just a ton of small things that drag it down some. Last Remnant for the Xbox 360 receives a 5 out of 10.